15, 20 minutes later, I could hear something walking on the gravel. I hear the screen door open.
What did I just see? What was that? Oh my god. Oh,
Exploring the deepest forests can feel like stepping into the unknown. But what happens when the shadows themselves seem alive? These are the moments that turned ordinary days into nightmares. Tonight, we uncover terrifying encounters, from the shadowed forests of the Pacific Northwest to the hidden valleys of Hawaii. Something unseen may be tracking your every move. D-Max UK's latest expedition took the crew deep into Kentucky, guided by a local expert Charles to a ridgeline unlike any other. Surrounded by steep hills and wedged between a busy highway and a popular state park, the location offered little in the way of natural cover. Still, as they surveyed the area, an unsettling feeling lingered. Was this really just an ordinary stretch of land, or had it been touched by something more?
The eye-shine video, of course, was filmed at night, so we wouldn't know what the location would look like.
Good to see ya. Good to see you.
When we met Chuck, he took us to the exact spot, which was a ridgeline with a steep hill on each side. This isn't what I would consider ideal habitat for any animal to take cover. You have a busy highway on one side, and on the other side is this popular state park.
This was the spot, the place where it all unfolded. Charles explained that he had been standing on a rock, filming the area as dusk settled over the ridgeline. Then, unexpectedly, eyeshine appeared, glinting through the underbrush. The team held their ground for several tense minutes, only to witness something even more unnerving. Pam spotted a figure emerging from behind her. Feeling the weight of an unseen presence, the group had no choice but to retreat, leaving the ridge with a lingering sense of unease.
This is where it happened. Where were you standing?
I was standing right here on the rock. When we came up here, it was right before dark. And I was filming this area here. And when I turned around, there was eye shine coming from right through here. We stood there for maybe 5 minutes. Just right after that's when Pam seen the one come up and behind her. And we kind of felt threatened by that, so.
In the footage, two glowing eyes stared back, unusually large and widely spaced. Some suggested it might be an owl, but the proportions seemed far too extreme for any known bird. To uncover the truth, the team decided to reconstruct the scene. Armed with two red LED flashlights, Bobo took on the role of the mysterious figure, moving through the shadows as the crew measured angles and distances, every step intensifying the question of what had truly been lurking just out of sight.
The two eyes in the video seem to be rather large and far apart. Now, the most likely culprit, if this is a misidentification, is an owl. And I think that these eyes would be too big and too far apart to be an owl. However, it's only by doing a recreation and measuring a couple things are we going to be able to figure that out.
So about here?
Using two red LED flashlights, Bobo stepped in to play the role of the Sasquatch once again.
Something watched them from the shadows, two glowing eyes just beyond the crooked branch, tension creeping into his voice. Bobo stepped forward with a measuring tape, the team determined to find out exactly how high those eyes had been. Inch by inch, he climbed, stretching toward the gray area on the tree. Step after step, the height became clear, 8 feet 9 inches right at eye level. The revelation left the crew frozen. Whatever had been watching wasn't just mysterious, it was enormous.
The eyes are right around the end of that crooked branch, right there.
How's that?
No, the eyes have to be even higher up, Bobo.
I mean, I could reach up 8 feet.
You can't reach up as high as we need you to go, so why don't you use the measuring tape, and we can try to determine the eye level with those. Okay, Bobo, measure up to about that gray area on the tree if you see where that is.
So that's about the bottom of my foot there. Say, I'm getting pretty high up there.
A little bit more, maybe another inch, right in there.
Wow, that would be about 8'8", 8'9".
Yeah, 8'9", right.
Look at that crooked branch in the footage, and now notice where those eyes appear. Way above their heads, almost impossibly high. Even from the ground, the height is shocking. Some say it could be an owl, but think carefully. Where would an owl even perch to create that effect? To make things stranger, a branch that might have supported it 3 years ago is gone today. The idea of a Sasquatch standing that close seems even less likely. There would have to be some trace of a face, some sign of presence, and yet, those eyes were real and they were watching. The question hangs in the air. What could possibly reach that high, unseen, and so unnervingly still?
Now, in the original video, look at the crooked branch compared where the eyes are.
Whoa.
See how far up above your head that is?
I'm tiny.
You're like a little over half its size.
It's just amazing it's that high in the air.
Because it's an owl on a branch.
Where would the owl be sitting?
I believe there's a branch that 3 years later is no longer there. Is far more probable and likely than a Sasquatch was standing that close to you and you couldn't see some mark of the face.
The team kept their eyes on the shadows, aware that something was moving, something large. The air was thick with tension as a deep sound echoed nearby, unmistakably heavy and powerful. Breaking the silence, but the doubt lingered. Hesitant, they decided to test the response, making small noises to see if anything would react. Moments later, the unmistakable impression of something massive became clear. The team exchanged tense glances. Whatever was out there, it was big, and it was close.
That just sounded so big.
This is a good time for a howl.
Yeah, I think we should make some more noises.
Will you do it?
Sure.
Hey folks, we did hear something big up here, so Clip's gonna do a scream.
Copy that.
Come on, Kentucky Squatch.
No one knew exactly what had just moved in the shadows. The team stayed on high alert, scanning the dark woods with every step, turning back repeatedly to check the direction of the movement. In these forests, nothing is obvious. Sasquatches are masters of subtlety. Every snap, every rustle, every faint crackle demanded investigation, because sooner or later, one of those ordinary sounds could reveal the extraordinary.
That was, but Matt made a right decision at that point. He said, you know what, maybe there's something trailing us. We need to be on extra high guard. We need to keep turning around and therming into the woods that direction, because you never know. Sasquatches are not obvious creatures. They are so subtle. You have to investigate every little crackle and pop in the woods to eliminate all possibilities. And one of those times, it's going to turn out to be a Sasquatch.
And when it does, there's no turning back. The question of what or who was lurking in those Kentucky woods remains unanswered. But one thing is certain. Charles and the team came face to face with something enormous, something that watched from the shadows, and they have no intention of ever venturing back to challenge it again. On DMAX UK, Bryce hunts the truth behind the most mysterious wilderness sightings. This journey takes him deep into the forest to meet Rob, a lifelong member of the Chippewa tribe. Unlike fleeting encounters, Rob and his father experienced something they could not explain, a close, chilling encounter with a creature they believe was Bigfoot. Deep in the dense forest, Bryce listens as Rob recounts the moment everything changed. While hunting with his father, heavy footsteps suddenly closed in from behind. The presence moved alongside them, then exploded through the brush.
Hey, thanks for meeting me out here.
Oh, yeah, no problem. My pleasure.
This place is incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty thick out here.
So, I understand you have an encounter story that you'd be willing to share with me.
Yeah, absolutely. One was when I was hunting with my dad. And as we were going down this deer trail, we started hearing heavy footsteps coming up behind us. And at the time, it sounded like it was coming down the same trail we were walking. It kind of caught up to us and then started paralleling us. So it kind of would push through these bushes into the opening where we were at.
Mm-hmm.
They saw it. Massive shoulders, a broad chest, followed by a deep, bone-shaking roar that echoed through the trees.
And that's when we saw it. I mean, we could just see just big shoulders and chest. And all of a sudden, we heard this roar. I mean, it was a rib cage rattling roar. It felt like the tree shook, and it went right through your body.
The creature ran, then dropped into a wide squat, leaving both men frozen, haunted by an encounter they would never forget. Bryce asks about its size. Rob hesitates, then explains his 6-foot-tall father barely reached its waist, making it at least 8, maybe 9 feet tall, with a massive barrel-shaped chest and powerful frame. Every detail is burned into Rob's memory, and Bryce feels the weight of that presence, as if the forest itself still holds the giant within its shadows.
Oh, right. Rob, when I usually work with witnesses, at this point I'm a little nervous because I'm about to show you what I've been working on. But I'm actually pretty confident this time around because you really remembered a lot of details. So, I'm really excited for you to see this. Are you ready to see this guy again?
Yeah, let's see it. Holy smokes. Yeah. Wow, that's incredible.
That looks like what you saw, Rob.
Yeah, yeah. That's incredible. It's crazy. It's like you pulled it right out of my brain. That's exactly how the eyebrows looked. They went up like that and then back down. Wow.
The encounter still grips Rob like a living shadow, every detail seared into memory. Bryce and the team take a rare step, bringing in a trained forensic artist to capture the creature exactly as Rob saw it. Nothing is dismissed. Every detail could bring them one step closer to proving the existence of something the world has long doubted. The memory lingered. Something massive had moved through the forest, leaving an impression that refused to fade. Bryce brought in Michael Montoya, a master forensic artist known for turning fleeting memories into lifelike sketches.
I'm completely blown away by my conversation with Rob. The fact that he can recall so many details of his encounter is truly amazing.
It's like it's just burned in my brain.
Really?
I don't know if it's because of the adrenaline, but it's like a photo image in my brain.
Wow.
Yeah.
You said you might have had another encounter as well?
Yeah, so later on, in 1992, it was a year after I graduated.
So this is 10 years later?
Yeah, this was 10 years later. So I got together with some friends.
As Rob described the creature, Montoya captured every shadow and shape. With each stroke, the image seemed to breathe, emerging from the depths of the forest itself. By the end, what was once a memory now stared back from the page, just as real and unsettling as the day it happened. The creature was unmistakably human-like, more human than ape. Its chest jutted forward like a ledge, sloping sharply from the collarbone, while massive trapezius muscles stretched almost to its ears. Every detail lingered in Rob's memory, vivid and undeniable, as if burned into his mind.
Something like a professional sketch artist draw what you saw?
Sure. I never thought about that.
Rob's memory of his Bigfoot encounter is so strong that it gives us this incredible opportunity to bring in a trained artist to create an image of Bigfoot that just for once is not blurry.
This is exactly what I was looking for.
But we can't rule anything out. We need to think outside the box. We need to try everything. Any tiny bit of information.
The image of it in the forest felt alive again, tangible and haunting, impossible to shake. When the sketch appeared, Rob's reaction was immediate. Astonishment etched across his face.
And his trap muscles on behind actually came up to where his ears were.
Interesting.
Man, when you zero in on just what these things look like, it's incredible the amount of detail a witness remembers.
Yeah.
Every detail matched his memory, down to the sweep of the eyebrows and the shape of the face. Seeing it again brought back the fear, the awe, the full magnitude of the encounter. For the first time, what had lived only in his mind now stood before him, vivid and undeniable. Now, with the sketch staring back at them, every detail vivid, every shadow alive, one question remains.
How does it make you feel seeing that?
It's just like, it just all comes rushing back. I mean, I feel like I'm shaking right now, just telling that story. That's amazing.
I was really blown away by Michael's sketch because it's one thing to hear about a witness's Bigfoot encounter, and it's another thing altogether to see the creature they were talking about. Thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Could this be the closest anyone has ever come to proving that something truly extraordinary still walks these forests? Salish Sasquatch presents verified sightings and first-hand encounters of Sasquatch across the Pacific Northwest. In this video, we present a carefully curated list of our most notable guests and memorable encounters, highlighting stories that have resonated most with our audience. We begin with Dean Parker of the Makah tribe in Nebe, Washington, whose insights provide a unique perspective on the region's long-standing Sasquatch traditions.
Welcome to Salish Sasquatch, where we share evidence as well as encounters. I've been wanting to put together this video for a while now. This video is a compilation of our very favorite guests, our favorite encounters, channel favorites, and all of that wrapped into one video. So these are in no particular order, but we will start with Dean Parker of the Makah tribe in Nebe, Washington.
Dean Parker, known as Papado of Nebe, recalls a night that still chills him to this day. Driving back to Skokomish through the dark, empty stretch of Humpt, something appeared on the road. A figure emerged from the shadows, moving with an eerie, unnatural grace. It took 3 deliberate steps across the road and then vanished, swallowed by the darkness, leaving only a haunting silence behind.
All right, my name is Dean Parker. I'm from Nebe, and a lot of people call me Papado. And I'm going to tell you about my encounter with the Sasquatches. My first one was driving back to Skokomish, and we was going through tulips there, and it was during the nighttime, and I come up on the road, and I told Lametta, I said, "See that?" "Yes." "You know what that is?" "Yes, it's a Sasquatch," and it took about 3 steps across the road, and it
What began as an ordinary moment quickly turned unsettling. From somewhere in the distance, a sharp whistling sound broke the silence. It didn't fade. It repeated, growing closer each time, deliberate, almost directed. With the wind pressing against his face, the realization set in that whatever was out there was no longer far away. The air felt wrong, and instinct warned that the situation was about to take a dangerous turn.
Then I heard this whistling noise out there in the distance. This is not going to be good. And I kept on hearing whistle, getting a little bit closer, whistling at me, and I knew they were really getting. I was walking.
That moment became one of his most unforgettable experiences, an encounter with not one, but 2 Sasquatches, leaving a lasting impression that would stay with him long after the night ended.
Oh, that was my experience with the...
Long before he knew the legends of Sasquatch, Johnny grew up in Missouri, a childhood untouched by television and the tales it might have told. When his family moved to Washington state, the dense forests and rugged wilderness became the backdrop for a childhood adventure unlike any other. On one of his first backpacking trips, a dozen kids and a single adult, the stage was unknowingly set for encounters that would change everything he thought he knew about the world around him.
I grew up in Missouri, and I didn't have TV. We didn't have TV when I was a kid, so I didn't know anything about Sasquatch or Bigfoot. And my family moved to Washington State, and one of the first trips I did as a kid was I went on a backpacking trip with, I think there were 12 of us kids and 1 adult, and
while trekking through the rugged trails of Mount Three Fingers in the Boulder River wilderness, an eerie sound shattered the quiet. Something slammed against a tree with a force that no human could match, rattling the forest with rapid, thunderous blows. Even those who had grown up among these woods felt a shiver run down their spines. The group froze, hearts pounding, as the hair on their arms and the back of their necks prickled with an instinctive, chilling fear.
we were hiking on Mount Three Fingers in the Boulder River wilderness, and something in the woods pounded on a tree right next to us, and it was inhumanly loud sound. No person could have done it, and I think it knocked the number of people in our group on the tree. It was boom, 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 real fast, real loud. And I grew up, playing in the woods, and I never heard anything like that. And, everybody there, we just froze.
Further up the road, two campers emerged, their headlights cutting through the darkness as they made their way down the hill. But something, or someone, was following them. A tall, unnervingly slender figure appeared on the road, moving with an almost unnatural grace. When he pointed it out to his friend, they brushed it off, assuming it was just the campers. But his eyes stayed locked on the figure as it came fully into view, impossible to ignore, and the forest seemed to hold its breath.
So they were coming, the two people that had camped further up the road, they came walking down the hill, they had their headlights on, and they were about over here on my left when I saw a tall figure following them on the road. It was very slender, but very tall. And I remember saying, "Hey, I see something up there." And my buddy who was over there, he said, "Oh yeah, that's the, so-and-so, that's those people that are friends." And I was like, "No, they're over here." And everyone just kind of ignored me. But I watched this figure walk into view.
Sonia approached the encounter with logic, carefully testing every explanation. A bear didn't make sense, as none of the usual warning signs were present, and it didn't feel like a deer, another animal, or even a person in the woods. One final possibility crossed her mind, one she resisted at first: Sasquatch. That unsettling realization, paired with the location and behavior she witnessed, drew her into a mystery she could no longer ignore.
Through and find a provisional hypothesis for what it is you're experiencing. And so I'm like, okay, well, if it was a bear, I would expect these things to occur. Bears are big enough to break branches. Bears would slap the ground with their forepaws, but I would have expected to hear huffing or jaw popping. Yeah. Black bears almost never try to intimidate people, and if they do, they make really obvious bluff charges. You probably would see a bear. I didn't think it was a deer, but I said, okay, well, if it was a deer, here's what I'd expect. Was it a wild cat? Was it a creepy person? And then my final one that I didn't want to even put down was it a squat?
Sarah Brown is a witness whose account stands out for its clarity and detail. During her encounter, she observed a Sasquatch from a distance that allowed her to study its form, coloration, and movement with unusual precision. Her careful observations and the drawing she later created offer a rare and compelling perspective that adds depth to her experience and credibility to her account.
Until Friday, May 10th, which was actually the day of the Aurora Borealis, I saw a Sasquatch that was standing across a field that was about 200 yards away from us. And what I saw was very two-toned in color. It was similar to like an orangutan red. An orangutan red all over here.
The sighting lasted only seconds. As she spoke, her attention drifted for just a moment, long enough for something across the field to catch her eye. She looked up, locked onto the figure, and then, just as suddenly, it was gone. Like so many Sasquatch encounters, it vanished without a trace, leaving behind nothing but the lingering question of what had truly been there. On Small Town Monsters, investigators explore tales that start ordinary and spiral into the unexplainable. Chris Spencer and his son camped alone at Skamania County Campground during spring break. By day, they found twisted maple vines, broken branches, and a massive impression in the ground.
First people in, and only people in the campground, and we found a vine maple that was limb twist broke, an 18 by 9 inch impression in the ground. We found other branches snapped off of fir trees 12 feet up. And that night, and we thought, oh, cool, didn't think.
But that night, terror struck. Something entered their campsite and forcefully grabbed their tent. What happened remains a mystery, leaving them with a chilling story no one can fully explain. Alone in the night, Chris heard movement circling the campground, two unseen presences testing him while his children slept.
Was in the campground, there's at least two moving back and forth around the camp. I think they were just messing with us, but around 4 in the morning, wow, it was like a rock on a tree, knock, everything went quiet. I got out of the tent and built up a fire and waited for my kid to get up. After that, that's when I decided to start doing stuff like that.
Frozen inside the tent, weapon across his chest, he couldn't move. A sharp knock rang through the trees, then silence. When he finally emerged, he built a fire, and waited. That night changed everything. Chris knew he had to find answers. John Sheridan, a seasoned investigator, has spent years listening to those who've encountered the unexplained. Some describe distant figures, calm and almost harmless, as if the forest itself is watching.
It's a difficult question because it depends. You know, I've heard so many different encounters and I've talked to so many different people. There's some things that really stand out, that you've seen. You know, they've seen a figure in the distance, right? Or it seemed friendly, and it wasn't any. They didn't seem like it was aggressive or there was any concern. They didn't have any fear. No feeling of dread or anything like that. But then there's some times where they're being pelted with rocks.
Others share darker tales. Rocks thrown from nowhere, invisible forces stalking them, or strange disturbances at home. For Sheridan, each story unveils a hidden world where moments of calm can suddenly turn into chilling menace. Chris Brinker, known for investigating the unexplained, often hears stories from people who never thought they'd have one to share. Anyone spending time in these woods seems to have at least one tale worth telling. Even longtime friends now come forward with experiences they kept secret.
I'm usually, because when I first started, I had to really learn all the other animals too, so I listened while I looked, but most of the target subject vocalizations, they fall in a certain hertz range, and a lot of times they'll look similar to human vocalizations, and so I look at a narrow hertz range, and when I see something that doesn't match up with the known animals, then I stop and I look at it, because I look at it visually just like David does. And it's something over time. I've been doing it since 2015, it's 2021 now.
One recalled parking with a girl when two glowing red eyes stared from the trees, vanishing as mysteriously as they appeared.
I've had multiple friends at work, you know, talk about different situations. It seems like, you know, anybody that spends any time in the woods around here has an experience, at least one that they talk about. People that, you know, you never would have thought, and you know, you mentioned that now that I do the investigating and they know that I do that, some people come forward and be like, oh yeah, I have something that happened to me that I never told anybody about. I had a friend who was out parking with a girl and had two red eyes that he caught staring at him from in the trees that just disappeared, you know.
For Brinker, these moments show just how thin the line is between ordinary and the inexplicable. As night fell, Rebecca Slick and her group settled into sleeping bags, chatter fading. Suddenly, a tree crashed down. It wasn't just a simple camping trip anymore. With no wind to explain the fall, Rebecca realized something unnatural might be nearby.
Bed, we're all in our sleeping bags, and all of a sudden the chatter of us starting to die down to go to bed is broken by this tree fall. That changed the game, because it went from just, okay, we're gonna just be out here camping, to, oh my goodness, there's no wind. It's possible that this could be natural.
In an instant, a peaceful night in the woods became unsettling, a possible creature lurking just beyond sight. Jody Fiorganes recounted the terrifying experience his mother endured, a presence more than a shape, massive and dark, filling the space around her vehicle. It struck suddenly, a violent impact on the front of the car, a jolt along the side, and a force that touched her hair, snapping her head back.
Others that we think of as being very passive. But as to what's creating those situations, what's causing those reports to manifest in the way they do, I don't know that there's any conclusive answer to that, at least at this point. We do tend to see, at least in most places, that sightings spike during the times of the year that people are outdoors, which makes sense. But as far as what time of the year, what location, what climate, if that makes them more aggressive, less aggressive, you do hear quite a few stories coming out of Florida, the skunk ape, sometimes Louisiana, the Honey Island area.
The smell alone suggested it was no ordinary animal. Even without a clear view, its closeness made it undeniable. She had come face to face with something extraordinary. His mother wasn't afraid. She believed the contact wasn't an attack, just curiosity. That single mysterious touch sparked a question haunting Jody.
Just given the behaviors and the things we're talking about, they seem to be pretty consistent and they're reported. Ape Canyon, if we are to believe the story of the miners, that was done as a sort of aggressive response to being shot at, or there was a curiosity factor with if the cabin was actually there. When the cabin was built, there seemed to be encounters with these creatures and the miners started shooting at them. And if we're to believe that story, maybe that tells us that they were curious, what are people doing in this really hard to reach place? And then it turned into aggressive behavior. So that was, I think, situational again.
What was out there? Watching, testing, trying to understand them. For him, proving her right became more than theory. It became a challenge to confront the unknown. The Cabin in the Woods channel delves into the most remote and haunting locations, uncovering stories that linger long after the cameras stop rolling. In August 2013, a couple vacationing on Vancouver Island took a secluded back road leading toward the tiny village of Port Renfrew. Surrounded on both sides by thick forest and with barely a sign of civilization, the narrow road seemed to disappear into the wilderness. During their drive, they paused by a quiet roadside creek, a seemingly ordinary moment that would soon unfold into an encounter far from ordinary, a tale the channel would later bring vividly to light.
So as I said, in August 2013, this couple was on vacation on Vancouver Island. They were driving this rather obscure back road toward a tiny hamlet called Port Renfrew. During our trip, my wife and daughter and I drove this same road, and we also visited Port Renfrew. And I can tell you that this particular road is small and narrow and lined with dense forest on either side, and really not much else. Zero signs of civilization.
The couple, no strangers to wandering deep into the wilderness, decided to follow a nearly dry creek bed, hoping it would guide them safely through the dense forest. Barely a couple hundred feet in, the sudden sound of snapping branches ahead made them pause. Through the shadows, a towering figure appeared, upright, swaying slightly, with a cone-shaped head and broad, imposing shoulders. It was a presence unlike anything they had encountered, leaving them frozen between awe and fear as they tried to comprehend what they were seeing.
They had walked only about 200 feet into the tree line along this creek bed when they suddenly heard branches breaking up ahead. They looked 75 to 100 feet further into the forest in the direction they were going, and that's when they saw this large, upright figure. The figure was standing bipedally, they said, and swaying back and forth. The couple said it looked like it had a cone-shaped head and broad, bulky shoulders.
The couple insisted that what they were seeing couldn't be a bear. Wendy, walking slightly ahead, suddenly stopped and gestured back to her partner, drawing his gaze toward a shape 75 to 100 feet away. At first glance, they thought it might be an animal, but its stance was unmistakably upright, moving on two legs. Even from that distance, its head had an unusual, almost conical shape, an appearance that left the couple uneasy, realizing they were witnessing something entirely out of the ordinary.
They stressed that in their opinion, this was not a bear.
Wendy was ahead of me, and she turns around and she points. And I looked up into the distance, way in the distance, it was about 75 to 100 feet ahead of us. You could see something in the distance. At first we thought it was a bear, but it seemed more bipedal. So it seemed more upright. It appeared to have kind of a conish.
The couple could just make out the shape of its head, tapered and sloping, with a broad, almost flat forehead that suggested a surprising intelligence. Its back looked thick and powerful, and one massive shoulder jutted into view, the arm disappearing into the shadows of the forest. Every feature hinted at something extraordinary, a creature far beyond anything they had ever expected to encounter.
Examine and scrub back and forth through these areas, you can see that sloping, cone-shaped head and the rather flat, somewhat horizontal forehead, very reminiscent of gorilla cranium shapes. We've also got what looks like a thickly muscled back and what really strongly appears to be a shoulder with the upper portion of what would be the creature's right arm hanging down out of view.
The creature's face bore a striking resemblance to Patty from the Patterson-Gimlin film. Todd Gatewood's restoration, made solely from the original footage, revealed uncanny similarities in facial features, posture, and the way it seemed to glance back. The image carried a chilling sense, as if the forest had quietly replayed a moment from decades ago.
But that face strongly resembles the face of Paddy, the subject of the famous Patterson-Gimlin film, particularly in this enhanced frame done by photo archivist Todd Gatewood. This is an undoctored frame, simply enhanced using the original visual information captured on Roger Patterson's camera. No AI was used in this restoration by Todd Gatewood. And look at the similarities, not just in facial features, but in overall shape, in impression, and in the fact that both Paddy and the subject of this 2013 footage from Port Renfrew appear to be turning their full bodies.
There was a faint, musty odor in the air, subtle, but noticeable. At first, it might have been mistaken for a bear, but its size and shape quickly suggested otherwise. Even from a distance, it appeared massive, with broad shoulders that hinted at a strength far beyond any ordinary animal.
There was actually kind of a musty smell, wasn't there? It wasn't strong. I would say it was kind of subtle. I don't know if bears stink. I mean, somebody says, oh, it was a black bear. I don't think it was a black bear. I've seen black bears before.
No, it wasn't black.
It didn't. It seemed quite big. And she's looking through the camera and zooming in on this thing. I'm seeing it from a distance. But it appeared to be quite big, and it seemed to have shoulders on it. That's what it looked like to me.
The identity of the figure remained a complete mystery. Reactions to the footage were split. Some dismissed it outright, while others were captivated. The discussion it sparked only deepened the intrigue, leaving viewers debating what had truly been captured. Although they emerged from the forest unharmed, the question of what they saw remains unanswered. Was it merely an unusual animal, or something far more extraordinary watching from the shadows? Meet Sarah Brown, the host of Salish Sasquatch. In her videos, she leads viewers deep into the forests of the Pacific Northwest, exploring remote areas with a team of seasoned Bigfoot researchers. But returning to a familiar site for a large campout would soon remind her that in these woods, you are never truly alone. The morning winds blew across the ridge, whispering through the trees as if the forest itself were alive. Larry and Jonathan paused, coffee in hand, when sharp, deliberate knocks began echoing from the drop-off ahead, one after another, cutting through the stillness. The forest seemed to hold its breath, and with every echo, the feeling grew that something unseen was watching, waiting just beyond the shadows.
So the first morning that Larry and I were here, we were walking the road having a cup of coffee, and right down this way, over here, it drops down, and we were hearing knocks, just single knocks, about every 40 seconds or so, and it was going on for about 15 minutes.
Yeah. And we walked slowly while we were listening. We walked all the way up to about that bend there of the road.
Damon Irons remembered a day that felt strangely alive. Early in the morning, he and Ed Finney wandered along the ridge when faint, deliberate knocks began echoing through the forest. Some came from one side, some from another, bouncing unpredictably across the hollow below. Damon knew this terrain well, a deep, sunken dip in the land where shadows clung, and every sound seemed to carry a warning from something unseen.
Yesterday was a pretty interesting day for us. In the morning, it started out with Jonathan and Larry were up kind of early and walking around over here, and we recorded like a couple, started hearing knocks right along this road that we're standing along, down in here. Some over here, some over there. The last couple days I've been driving by it on this thing. You can kind of look down into it, and this looks like topographically, this is a big, low dipped area. It goes down quite a ways.
After the morning knocks, Ed and Damon knew they had to investigate. As they approached the hollow, it became clear that something, or someone, moved through this area on a regular basis. Fallen logs had been disturbed, the earth dug into, and every branch along a narrow trail had been snapped or pushed aside at just the right height, as if an unseen presence had passed through, leaving a quiet but undeniable trail of its passage. For a moment, it seemed to have stopped. Damon and Ed sat in tense silence, convinced the disturbance had passed. But then, without warning, the sounds returned, sharp, deliberate, coming from just beyond the clearing.
And after we got the knocks in the morning, Ed and I decided that we were going to go in there. And you can tell just by looking around down there that there's something is there on a very regular basis, just living. We found some logs knocked over and kind of dug into. We came across a trail where like every branch was knocked off the side of the tree to about this high.
The forest seemed to shift around them, as if whatever was out there was testing their patience, watching, waiting. Janice described moving along the narrow path toward Virgil's camp when the quiet suddenly broke. As she passed a small tree near the edge of the grass, a single, forceful knock rang out, wood striking wood from just beyond the drop-off. The area below had already been active with repeated knocking sounds, and the night before, another unmistakable strike had come from higher up the slope, reinforcing the feeling that something was circling the camp from multiple directions.
So I was walking on this path over here through the grass, heading over to Virgil's camp. And right when I got to like where that little tree is right there, I just heard like this power knock, just wood on wood, just right down over the edge here.
And we've been getting knocks constantly from down along this area. And then last night, I got one from right up there.
Lorenzo noticed the strange echoing knocks coming from deep in the forest and hesitated to investigate. Later, driven by curiosity, he edged closer to the source, discovering disturbed branches and flattened earth along a hidden trail, calling it the work of some mischievous animal, unaware that the forest had far darker plans for the night ahead. After a day filled with echoing knocks, disturbed trails, and unseen watchers,
Jimmy did, I did. It was about 11:19, and it was like a ooh-wee sound, like way back down in here.
Back down this way.
Yeah, that's.
Did you? We need to talk to.
I talked to Jimmy about it.
the team can only wonder, what exactly is moving through these forests? Is it merely the wildlife they've always known, or something far more intelligent and far more dangerous, hiding just beyond the shadows? On Exploring with Angelo, the camera is already rolling when the moment shifts. Angelo moves with a mix of curiosity and caution, guiding viewers through remote forests and hidden corners, capturing the moments when the shadows shift, and the unknown reveals itself. An old plate lies half buried on the ground, unnoticed until now. Then comes the sound, subtle at first, moving just beyond the trees. This is not how the exploration was expected to begin. The air thickens with insects, visibility drops, and whatever is making that noise is close enough to be heard, but not seen.
Alright guys, welcome back to a brand new adventure. Old plate. Oh, there's something in there. This is not how I anticipated starting this video. Oh, you can hear it. What is that? God, there's so many bugs right now.
The light flickers and without warning, plunging the space back into shadow. Then come the sounds, sharp, deliberate taps echoing from the darkness, as if something is striking nearby surfaces on purpose. It doesn't feel random. The noises pause, then start again, testing the silence, as though whatever is out there is trying to provoke a reaction or drive him away.
Hang on. Well, that was kind of weird. For some reason, the light battery kept turning off, but you know what these freaking birds are doing right now? They're literally like pecking at things, I think trying to make noise so that way they can scare me off. Like, let's see if he does it again.
Angelo freezes as an unfamiliar sound cuts through the silence, thin, strained, and disturbingly deliberate.
What is that? Sounds almost like a child crying.
It lingers just long enough to be heard clearly before slipping away, as if testing the air. The source appears to be the barn ahead, a place that should be empty. Whatever made that noise is close, and it doesn't sound natural.
You know, it kind of almost sounds like it's coming from the barn.
He freezes as the sound surfaces again, low, uneven, and wrong. It wavers through the darkness, never settling, never revealing its source. Each second it lingers makes the silence heavier. The noise feels close, then distant, as if something is moving just out of sight, watching, waiting.
That's really weird. I'm hearing that almost crying again. What is that? It sounds like it's coming from that direction, but I can't really pinpoint where.
A subtle shift echoed from the darkness ahead, followed by the unmistakable sound of something moving across broken glass. Each step was measured, deliberate, too controlled to be accidental. He hesitated, aware that the camera had been aimed in that direction moments earlier, hoping it had captured what his eyes could not. The silence that followed was heavy. When he finally called out, asking the unseen presence to make itself known, the quiet felt less like absence, and more like a warning that had already been ignored.
Of what? Something's moving in there.
I'll move something.
Go for it. Something was literally just walking like in that broken glass, it sounded like. Oh, the camera was facing right there. I hope I caught it. Is that you? Why don't you make a sound to let me know you're there?
When he returned inside, everything felt routine at first. He moved toward a path he had walked countless times before, when something caught his attention near the doorway. For a split second, a figure appeared to be standing off to the right, motionless, human-shaped, clad in what looked like patterned fabric. Then, it was gone. The space was empty, untouched. The moment left him shaken, not because of what he saw, but because it felt deliberate, as if something had briefly chosen to be seen before slipping back into the shadows.
So, when I came back in, obviously I have to come through the kitchen area, as I've done many times, and I literally thought I saw so imagine I walked through that door, and I thought I saw off to the right a man just standing there, like in almost like plaid. It's all I saw, and then I looked, there was no one there, so that was kind of weird. I don't know what that was. Maybe somebody's trying to show themselves to me, but...
Angelo leads the camera back to the second location, the place where the figure seemed to stand moments earlier. The feeling hasn't faded. As the silence settles, a faint sound breaks through, just enough to make him stop and listen. Nothing reveals itself, but the air feels disturbed. Behind the structure, an old doghouse sits alone, oddly positioned, out of place. Its presence feels intentional, as if it was left there for a reason, and not a comforting one.
I'll show you the other spot where I thought I saw a man standing there as well. That was creepy. So what was that? I thought I heard something in here. Oh yeah, I've never really pointed this out much, but there is...
A soft, unsettling sound drifts down from upstairs, barely more than a whisper at first. It rises and falls, uneven and haunting, impossible to ignore. Each moment stretches longer than the last, leaving a cold awareness that something, or someone, is moving above, just out of sight.
I hear something. Sounds like it's coming from upstairs. I really hope they can.
Though he made it out of the night without injury, the experience left an unsettling mark. Was it merely the tricks of the imagination, or something far more deliberate lurking in the shadows? The uncertainty is what makes it so haunting. A place once familiar had shifted into a realm of tension and fear, shaped by something unseen. It's a chilling reminder that no amount of preparation can shield you from the realization that you are being watched from the darkness. The Travel Channel ventured deep into the wilderness where curiosity meets the unknown. Viewers watched as the team asked the crowd a simple yet chilling question. Had anyone ever encountered a Sasquatch? Slowly, hands began to rise, a silent acknowledgement that something mysterious was out there, something that had left its mark on more than just the forest.
So satisfy our curiosity, please. If you think you have encountered a Sasquatch at some point, please put your hands nice and high in the air.
Camille Delorme went out fishing, the quiet of the woods pressing in from every side. She knew the area was alive with deer, and maybe something far stranger. Her eyes drifted across the tree line, scanning for movement, when she suddenly froze. Two figures emerged, one tall, standing perfectly still beside a massive willow bush, the other lurking just behind it, parting the branches as if studying her. A shiver ran down her spine as the realization sank in. They weren't deer. The forest seemed to hold its breath, every rustle amplified in the heavy silence. Camille couldn't tear her eyes away, trapped by the gaze of something she couldn't explain.
My name is Camille Delorme. We were fishing. I knew that there were a lot of deer and elk, and I was kind of scanning the tree line looking. There were two. There was a tall one standing next to a big willow bush, and the other one was right next to it, and it had the bush parted. It was like this.
Dion Kroom never expected his routine drive to turn into something unforgettable. As he cruised down the highway on the way out hunting, a figure appeared at the edge of the road. Something completely out of place. The moment it noticed the vehicle, it moved with impossible speed, clearing the road in just 3 steps. Shocked, Dion turned to his brother asking if they had seen it too. Both nodded, eyes wide, barely able to speak. For a heartbeat, the world seemed frozen, as if whatever had appeared had slipped back into the shadows, but left a memory that refused to fade.
My name is Dion Kroom. I was on our way out hunting, driving down the highway. And you could just see something standing out of the ordinary. Once it noticed us, he clears the road in 3 steps. Told my brother and wife, "Did you guys see that?" And they're like, "Yeah."
Candy Usazero had barely set foot on the south end of the marsh when the night seemed to shift around her. Strange, eerie noises pierced the stillness, sending a chill down her spine. She and her friend were out elk hunting when she suddenly told her son to turn on the spotlight, and that's when it appeared, a massive figure looming behind a tree. Her body shook uncontrollably. Even now, the memory still terrifies her. Whatever it was had emerged from the shadows, a chilling reminder that some things in the dark are not meant to be seen.
Hello, my name's Candy Usazero. My oldest son, we went out elk hunting out here on the south end of the marsh. Kept hearing this weird noise. Told my son, turn on the spotlight. I could see this huge figure behind a tree. And I was shaking. I'm shaking right now because it scared the out of me.
Whispers of Yamsy Mountain kept surfacing at the town hall meeting. The sacred mountain on the reservation was a place no one dared to enter. Rumors of strange, unexplainable occurrences kept people away. But for the team, the more mysterious, the better. Before speaking to a single witness, they decided to head straight into the heart of it, bigfooting on Yamsy Mountain, determined to uncover whatever secrets the shadows were hiding.
One name came up over and over again at town hall meeting, and that is Yamsy Mountain. It's a sacred mountain on the reservation where no one goes. You're not supposed to go there because weird things happen there. Well, we're all about the weird, and we are here to Bigfoot. So before we speak to any witnesses at all, we are going to go Bigfooting tonight at Yamsy Mountain to see what we can discover.
The trail stretched out perfectly before them, a strange blend of habitats teeming with hidden life. Then came the sound. A sharp knock, sudden and deliberate. At first, it seemed like a branch snapping, but the forest felt alive. A second movement followed, subtle yet deliberate, just beyond sight, as if something or someone was tracking their every step.
This is such perfect terrain.
Nice mixture of habitats.
Did you hear that,
Whoa,
Bobs?
is that a branch falling or just I only heard one knock.
It sounded like a branch breaking.
The team crept through the forest, eyes scanning the ground and shadows alike. Something's been watching across here. Deep tracks mark the earth, sharp and deliberate, visible to anyone with a headlamp. Elk and mule deer crisscross the trail, an ungulate highway, but no human footprints anywhere. The absence of people felt wrong, almost deliberate, and a shiver ran down their spines. Every crack of a branch and rustle of leaves made them jump, as if the forest itself was alive, waiting. After all these encounters, figures in the shadows, impossible movements, and tracks that lead nowhere, the question remains, what really walks these forests when no one is looking? Could it be a creature we've never fully understood, or something far stranger, hiding just beyond the edge of our perception? Tonight, we're exploring a sighting that left even seasoned trackers questioning what's real. We've collected stories from locals who've seen something tall, silent, and unlike anything they've ever known. Sleepy Gulch sat right between three active Bigfoot zones, areas known for repeated and unexplained sightings. As they made their way deeper into the dense, shadowed woods, Jenny came across yet another fresh report from a local witness, one that sent a chill through the team.
Serviced it the last time that Sleepy Gulch runs between three Bigfoot sighting locations that are really close to it. And on the way in, Jenny read another report that happened on one side of Sleepy Gulch, plus the dozens of them that are right here. It is a muddy, slimy mess. There's a little bit of snow. Look at Jenny.
Yeah.
Jenny fell down in the mud. She's like, I hope that doesn't stain.
I know.
I think she's gonna be fine.
With every step, the sense that they were being watched, hunted even, grew stronger. The snow-covered trail was perfect for spotting tracks. As they moved deeper into the silent woods toward the trail camera, every crunch of their footsteps felt heavy with anticipation. Whatever the camera might reveal, ordinary wildlife, or something far stranger, was still a mystery waiting to unfold.
I see some moose tracks, and that.
Deer.
There's some deer tracks. There's a moose track, and Jenny and I filmed a couple of moose on our way in here. I'll make sure I put those in this video.
That's a deer right now.
Yeah, another deer track. Yeah, maybe we'll find Bigfoot tracks because we're finding Bigfoot food.
Fresh tracks appeared in the snow, moose, deer, but something about them felt different. Jenny had filmed a few moose on the way in, yet these new prints seemed to whisper through the silent forest. With each step deeper into the woods, an unsettling feeling grew, as if unseen eyes were watching, waiting, and not all the movement belonged to ordinary wildlife.
How creepy is that? He estimates it was about 9 feet tall, and it was only 20 feet away from him when it stood up. He says it was a male. He could see its man part, he says. He was close enough. He could see its skin, its dark skin under its dark hair fur. And he says it got up and it never looked directly at him. Acted like he wasn't there and kind of took a step towards him.
He shared the story of a friend Casey's terrifying encounter while camping. His friend had gone into the willows to cut some branches for hot dog roasters, when, just 20 feet away, a massive Bigfoot rose up from the shadows, silently watching. He said it must have been about 9 feet tall, a huge male, and that he could even see its dark skin beneath the thick fur. Every detail was clear to him, and the memory of being so close to something so enormous still sends shivers down his spine. The creature rose slowly, never once meeting his eyes, moving as if he didn't exist.
And we've overshot it a couple of times. She's calling this creek bed a ditch.
That's where I came from.
Oh my heck. There was so much cover here when I set it up.
I know, now there's nothing.
Now there's no cover.
Mm-hmm.
You spotted that from a long ways away.
One step forward, then a quiet shift to the side, and it vanished into the shadows. The forest fell silent, but the chilling sense of being watched lingered, as if something enormous had just brushed past his world and disappeared without a trace. Not far from that same eerie stretch of woods, Jenny heard a story that sent chills down her spine. A woman she knows, who does her nails, told her how her boyfriend had a face-to-face encounter with a Bigfoot in the willows while camping. So close, so real, it felt like the creature was watching his every move, leaving him shaken and questioning everything he thought he knew about the forest. If it appeared just 20 feet away from someone else, what would happen if it appeared near you? Yet these 6 stories are just the beginning. The forests still whisper, shadows still move, and the question remains: what watches from the darkness, waiting for the next curious soul to wander too far? Stay alert, because out there, the unknown never truly sleeps.